guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who's B, it's your girl Kyra B coming at you with a new video. So today we're going to be talking about Love is Blind Season 9, Episode 12, the Weddings episode. So we basically had 3 couples left. Out of the 6 that got engaged, only 3 left standing, okay? So we basically saw the little bachelor party. It was like basically 2 minutes long, really and truly. So we basically see like a little bit of a, the calm before the storm, or basically the reasonings behind the outcomes of what's going on in this weddings episode. Because she was basically telling her friends how, you don't leave a relationship, you fight for the person, We basically have Megan's friends telling her, like, basically since, being with Jordan since he has a kid, is it like about you changing your, like, how hard is it going to be to change your lifestyle to incorporate this situation? And also I feel like, they feel like that she's really like of the kid more so, like after like seeing him, that's why she's like willing to stay with the relationship.
Talking about that.
That's a good question.
Honestly, Megan, my biggest fear is that you are going to say yes because you fall in love with the kid. The kid will complicate your feelings.
He already has.
So they're basically saying, like, because, Luca's so, wonderful, she's willing to, like, basically stick it out. Then you have basically Alini's friends are basically kind of like, shading Anton's job, because basically, she's saying like, oh, Anton makes really good money because he's a truck driver, They kind of try to shade his job being a truck driver, saying like, oh, he's not really good money, but maybe some good money, And it's like, oh, he has a potential. She's like, he has potential to do other things, She's talking about like, he wants to open up a barbershop, this business, that business, whatever. They're like, oh, he maybe have a potential to do that, or he might have a potential to stay up a truck driver for the rest of your life. And she's like, well, if he decides to do that, then she's like, she's not with it.
Makes really good money. Sure. Okay, he makes good money. Not really good money, but like...
Are you okay that he's a truck driver? A lot of people would look down on that, especially a woman of your caliber.
If I were to meet somebody that was just like, oh yeah, I'm a truck driver and I love it, I plan to do it my whole life, I'd be like, absolutely not.
So just like, yeah, it's giving Alini with Shal, and I've been said, like, as soon as she talked about like, oh, when she go back to school, when she was with her family, they did everything, paid, cooked the food, clean, paid the rent. She didn't have to do nothing, just go to school and come back home. And she was telling that to Anton, like Anton's supposed to like follow suit. And I was like, is this giving a sugar daddy situation? Because he's not your father. He's your husband or tubby potentially, So I was just like, yeah, Alini, you need to fix that up. And then obviously he's over there on the bachelor side, like, maybe she doesn't cook clean, but he's still willing to like pursue and try for this relationship. So we get to Anton and Alini's wedding. Anton and Alini, they show up. They have their little Mr. and Mrs. Shirts on. She's getting ready with her family. Her mom's there, and the 2 blonde friends that were there at the bachelor party. They're basically talking about Anton. And mind you, these are the 2 girls that said that they're gonna get a divorce pretty soon, or in the middle of divorce. But anyhow, they're basically talking about, Anton drinking. So Alini's mom basically was like, oh, I don't like that. Like, after, I guess, Alini told her prior, she's like, oh, nobody in my family drinks, So Alini's like, oh, I drink, but she's like, oh, not like that, So we're like, yeah, they were kind of like not really on Anton like that, to be honest, her saying yes to him. So then we see Alini's sisters show up. And the one sister that, Alini's mom was like, oh, she's not going to come. The one sister that showed up and she hugged Alini, and she was just like, yeah, whatever outcome, she doesn't really care, essentially, because she never gave her blessing, for Alini to like go through the process to do this. So it's just kind of like, okay, well, nobody really seems to be on board for Alini to say yes to Anton. Because the blonde friends already know how the girlfriend from 3 months with Anton's best friend, how she aired him out, and basically to like, oh, he went partying when he was single with the guy. Mind you, if she's with him, and they don't do that anymore, or she hasn't seen them together do that anymore. I don't know why that was a big deal, but anyhow, that's a big deal because, you know, Alini spreads it to everybody about that situation. She's like, oh, I don't like that, you know. She doesn't know if, you know, her potential husband to be, you know, partying, da da da. So with that being said, Anton's mom's there. Notice that Anton is nervous. Anton basically, you know, obviously, I already said this in my last video, that Anton would definitely say yes to the altar, but Alini is definitely, you know, would be a wild card, and she's most likely saying no because she doesn't seem like she's 100% in it. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. At the altar, he said yes. She said no, she can't marry him. She ends up crying and walking away because she didn't expect him to say yes, and now she's the one being the bad guy saying no. So, you know, Anton's family was obviously upset, obviously called her cold-hearted. You know, it is what it is, but I mean, I feel like you could take a, you know, page out of Nick's book and would have basically, if you knew you had all these doubts about Anton, you should have took a page out of Nick's books from this season and been like, you know what, 3rd strike, 2 strikes, da-da-da, you're out. Like, I don't think I can go through this. Like, you know, getting everybody up to a wedding, you know, calling off from work, do all da-da-da, to come to this wedding and doing all of this. And you knew that it wasn't like even 50-50. You knew it was like probably 60-40, 70-30% walking into this wedding that you probably were leaning towards a no. You probably should have just like, oh, okay, let me call you up and say, like, yeah, I can't go through it. You know, something like that. Don't waste people's time. You know, don't waste people's time, because how would it look if Nick knew like he was like leaning towards a no all this time and he went through a wedding with Annie just to say no? He knew like, yeah, 2 strikes, let me call it quits. So they didn't get married. The second wedding that happened was Calabria and Edmund. So Calabria, we see Calabria's family, her sister, her cousin, her mom shows up. Talks to Edmund, da 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 da. Edmund actually reveals to Calabria's mom that his mother, you know, was invited to come and she didn't show up, but his father did. The same mom who's like trying to play like, oh, she raised him. Mind you, he was in foster care in and out of all his life until he was grown enough to not be in foster care. Did not show up for his big day. I don't know what other, you know, situations that she had to not come, but it is what it is. She didn't show up. He had his teacher from 5th grade who actually made like a very, you know, important impact on his life show up and actually walked him down the aisle. Calabria, you know, she had her, you know, we see her friends, you know, mom, sister, they get ready, da 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 da. So, you know, his teacher walking down the aisle, they get to the aisle, da 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 da. And, you know, he said yes. I mean, it was very obvious that he was obviously going to say yes. They're like, you know, telling each other that they both love each other, da da da. But Calabria, she said no. She was just like, you know what? She was still struggling with an answer, but it was raps. It was raps. There were so many times I already knew this relationship wasn't gonna work since they left to go to Mexico. When she asked Edmund, when we go to a club and a man grabs me by the arm, he's touching me, he grabbed my arm and gets up into my face and like, oh, da da da, I don't care about your man, I don't care, da da da. What you gonna do? And he just said, I'm not gonna do nothing but call the security. That was red flag number 1. I mean, that was just like, yeah, dude, not gonna cut it. Not gonna cut it for somebody like Calabria. Like, if somebody grabbing me in my face, we're in the club together. You're not gonna do nothing but try to get the security. That's not gonna cut it. Next, when he started, you know, try to emotionally manipulate her to, you know, give him something. Mind you, they had a whole discussion about what to wait towards after they get married. So I'm like, that was strike number 2. Strike number 3, they go to the rodeo situation and he over here trying to, you know, act like, you know, it wasn't even strike number 3. That's because we find out later that was a whole context. She asked him in a time of need, you know, just to go to the store for her. He didn't do that. Then he comes to the rodeo in front of everybody and basically say, oh, I wish somebody would tell me some nice things or da da da. Like, that's probably 4, really and truly honest. Then they go have their like last date on the jet skis, whatever, the skis, snowmobile, whatever. And he ignoring her on the car ride up there. And then they like having this whole argument or interrupting each other. That was strike number 4, 5. Like, all these strikes, it was giving it wasn't gonna go. It wasn't gonna go. So I mean, I'm surprised, took it all up to the wedding, but Cleaver said no. He was very like heartbroken about that because he really didn't think Cleaver was gonna say no. But she said, yeah, she wasn't 100% there. I mean, I knew she wasn't 100% there, but, she still was like, she doesn't want to get up and leave relationships because, that's the old Cleaver. But I'm just like, yeah, there was signs that were glaring red at you, girl. And I'm like, I'm glad you dodged it because it wasn't looking good. But yeah, that's the second wedding that they didn't get, that happened. Nobody got married. So then I see it was like 10 minutes left. A whole hour and 5-minute episode. 2 weddings went by. That obviously nobody said yes. Nobody got married. So then I'm like, okay, how long is Jordan and Megan's wedding going to be? Come to find out, Megan and Jordan didn't even have a wedding. Megan called Jordan up, told him on the wedding day, like, hey, I woke up real early and I just didn't feel right. And I'm just letting you know, like, yeah, I cannot marry you. So she basically told Jordan, like, basically to compromise. I see both sides, really and truly. I don't think Megan is totally wrong. I just feel like she should, like, really do, take in account for that he does have a child with diabetes. That is a lot. So basically she's saying, like, obviously, try new foods, go to different restaurants, try new foods, go to different places. And she's basically saying, like, I did all that stuff by myself when I was single. Now that I potentially have a husband, I would like to do some of these things with my husband. Because he's basically saying, like, yeah, you can do all these things if you want to do that, but, like, obviously with my schedule, I wouldn't be able to do that stuff. And she's kind of like, yeah, I understand that, but she kind of looks like there's a compromise, like, okay, you can join, like, not all the time, hop on a plane with me to go this place and that place, but, like, maybe once in a blue, we can go to a nice restaurant, we can, do this, do that, da-da-da-da. And I guess he's just not making the effort or making the compromise to do such things. And I understand where Megan was coming from. Now, basically, obviously, Megan's 33, he's 29. So she worked to reach the point that she can be very flexible for her schedule. She doesn't have to work as hard as much because she made a lot of money to be comfortable. He hasn't reached that point, and I guess he's very, like, independent to, like, he's not gonna, like, mooch off for her or basically, like, oh, we'll let her contribute to these things and that. He's like, no, he really wants to support his family, himself, and obviously his son. So it's just like, she, wants that. Like, he's very strict about, like, okay, going to work for 10 hours a day, coming back home, taking care of his son, eating the same things. Like, he's very rigid. He's not changing it or switching it because I guess he's working towards a goal. And I very understand that he's working towards a goal. And obviously he has a family. I'm just saying, like, there was a time that they could have met in the middle. And I guess, Megan, was kind of feeling like that. She's going to probably, like, change her entire self for Jordan. She doesn't want to do that. But then Jordan's just like, he has a son that he has to take care of with type 1 diabetes. And it's just kind of like, I can't drop everything on the drop of a hat just to, go this place and that place with you because he has to think of his son. So she's saying, like, yeah, that's the reason why she's not going through the wedding. So he was, like, upset. He was crying. She was, like, apologizing for, like, not, like, I guess loving him enough or whatever, And, like, I guess it just, obviously the wedding didn't happen. She was upset. She kind of feels like, maybe if she wasn't, like, cut out to be a stepmother, maybe she's not cut out to be a mother. And he was just upset, like, he really regrets, letting Luca meet her because just, like, his 5-year-old son is super excited about getting a new stepmom, whatever, to come find out the wedding doesn't happen. The wedding didn't happen. I just feel like I understand both points of views. I just feel like maybe if he was willing to maybe just try a new restaurant or something like that, maybe do something like that, maybe not travel, kind of, that would have made an effort, but I guess he wasn't willing to do anything or even talk about his job, and I think he wasn't willing to do any of that. So it's just kind of like, okay, well, for Megan, it's just kind of like, okay, well, there was no meat in the middle for the situation, so it kind of just, like, fell flat. So it is what it is. I mean, a little preview for the reunion. Megan says that she has a surprise because I think Vanessa asked her, like, oh, do you still think that you're not cut out to be a stepmom or mom? And she was just like, well, I have a surprise for you. So she might be with child. She might, you know, be in a relationship with a person with a child, or, you know, she got back with Jordan. I don't know what's tea, what happened. But let's see this, you know, reunion, because nobody got married, which is crazy work. Out of 9 seasons, nobody gets married is crazy. Not even one wedding, that's crazy. Crazy. Like, everybody, 6 couples got engaged, mind you, and only 3 potentially could have had a wedding. And only 2 end up having a wedding that said no. And 1 just said, yeah, like, I'm not even going to try today. Like, let's wrap this up. That's crazy. This was a wild season. Denver, Colorado. I don't know what was in the air, what was in the water. But it was just wild. It was very wild. But it is what it is. It is what it is. It was in episode 12 of Love Island season 9. Basically the finale episode. Crazy season. No weddings. No relationships. Wild, wild, wild. But anyway, guys, if you guys like the video, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, comments, concerns. You guys subscribe to my channel, subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Peace.